Hey guys, welcome to the Elevate Church online experience. So good having you here every week. And if this is your first time, a special welcome to you. So guys, if you want to stay connected with us, don't forget to like and subscribe. The links are down below. Our worship partner this week is the Recording Collective. If you want to sing along, the words are down below.
I'm caught up in your presence. I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never wanna leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessings. Jesus, you don't owe me anything more than anything that you can do. I just want you. I'm sorry when I've just gone through the motions. I'm sorry when I just sang another song. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. Ooh. And I'm sorry when I've come with my agenda. I'm sorry when I forgot that you're enough. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. I'm caught up in your presence. I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never wanna leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessings. Jesus, you don't owe me anything more than anything that you can do. I just want you. I just want you and nothing else. Nothing else. Nothing else will do. I just want you and nothing else. Nothing else. Nothing else. Nothing else will do. I just want you and nothing else. Nothing else. Nothing else will do. I just want you. Nothing else, oh God. Nothing else. Nothing else will do. I just want you. Nothing else. Nothing else. Nothing else. If it's not you, Jesus, it won't satisfy my heart. I was made for you and you alone. I'm coming back to the heart of worship. Coming back to the heart of worship. And it's you, Lord.
It's you, Lord.
It's you, Lord. It's you, Lord. Just want you. Caught up in your presence. I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never wanna leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessing. Jesus, you don't owe me anything more than anything that you can do. I just want you.
Who am I that the highest king would welcome me? I was lost, but he brought me in. Oh, his love for me. Oh, his love for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. Free last, he has ransomed his grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, yes, he died for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken.
You say I am.
You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free,
Oh, it's free.
I am free indeed.
I'm a child.
I'm a child, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place waiting for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am.
I am chosen,
I'm
not
chosen,
forsaken.
not
I
forsaken.
am who you say I am. chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Oh, I am who you say I am. I am who you say I am. The sun shines free. Oh, it's free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Oh, I'm a child of God. Yes, I am.
So if you've had a chance to give before, we thank you so much. And if you'd like to today, the links are down below.
Well, hey there, Elevate family and friends. Great to have you with us today as we launch a brand new series, which I'm going to talk about more in a moment. In the US, there's a lot of theme parks, and in California, there's a particular theme park that gets a lot of global attention. It's called Disneyland. Chances are you've heard of it. But for California natives, and particularly Southern California natives, there's another theme park that doesn't get anywhere near the same amount of global attention, and it's called Knott's Berry Farm. Knott's Berry Farm. Yeah, it sounds like a weird name for a theme park, and you can ask the internet what the backstory is. That's not the big idea today. But a number of years ago, I was in California on a work trip, and I had a day free, and I decided to squeeze in a visit to Knott's Berry Farm. And I went there by myself, which Louisa, my wife, when she knew I was going there without her, she wasn't fussed. She was back here in Australia, not fussed at all. Now, if I'd gone to Disneyland without her, it would have been a different story. But she didn't have any desire to come to Knott's Berry Farm, because Knott's Berry Farm is actually pretty much famous for the genre of what are known as thrill rides. Yeah, that's right, including roller coasters. I love roller coasters. Louisa, not so much. There was this roller coaster, the most recent installation at Knott's Berry Farm, called Hang Time. And the reason it's called Hang Time is that because you spend a disproportionately large amount of time upside down on that ride. I loved it. Anyone else fans of roller coasters? What about financial roller coasters? Because it definitely feels like we've been riding one of those for the last year or two, or maybe longer. Now, financial pressures, financial roller coasters are nothing new, but we live in a very unique time in history where financial roller coasters have been driven by the three C's: COVID, conflict, the invasion of Ukraine, and climate, affecting all sorts of things to do with supply chains and so on and so forth. And these do get a lot of attention. as being the reasons behind or the forces that are driving the financial roller coaster that we find ourselves currently riding. But there's a fourth C, and the fourth C doesn't get anywhere near the same amount of airplay. In fact, it's kind of flying under the radar. And yet, I would contend that it's at least equally as an important driver as the other three C's, or potentially actually a more significant driver of financial pressures than the other three C's. And it's culture. Specifically, the fact that we live in a culture that is wired and has us wired for constant overconsumption. Here in Australia, the RBA, the Reserve Bank of Australia, and I know there's similar things happening in many other central banks around the world, the Reserve Bank of Australia has actually been increasing interest rates over the last year approximately. And this actually means that those of us who have a mortgage effectively are paying more per month for our home loans, which is an outcome, but it's actually not the RBA's stated goal. In fact, their stated goal is that they want to actually reduce household expenditure, which is a fancy way of saying they want to tell Australia, stop buying so much stuff. But guess what? It's not working, because we can't stop as a nation, and I would say this is true of a lot of nations around the world. Our culture has us programmed for constant overconsumption. And there's a number of reasons, number of things that have gotten us to this place where we just can't stop buying stuff. One of them is that we've blurred the lines between a need and a want. And any time we think we might have defined what's a need and what's a want, the line shifts. And it shifts because someone else has told us we need something, or we've convinced ourselves that we need something. Miraculously, we survived up till now without it. But now it's moved from the want category into the need category, and we just go ahead and keep buying more stuff. And another cultural force is the reality that we've normalized debt. Everyone has it. Yeah, everyone, well, nearly everyone does have it. But that doesn't mean it's optimal. Let me throw a couple of numbers at you. In Australia, the average personal loan debt per household is $17,700. Personal loan debt. Average credit card debt per household, $3,841. And 46% of households are carrying buy now, pay later debt. Nearly half of the households in Australia. And so you start to think everyone is doing it, but that doesn't make it optimal. Now, if you've got your smartphone camera, pop it open, scan this flow code. It's going to take you to Jeremiah chapter 6. This is God speaking through a prophet thousands of years ago, speaking wisdom that is very much relevant today and very much applicable to what we're teaching starting today. This is what God said through Jeremiah. Stop at the crossroads and look around. Ask for the old godly way and walk in it. Travel its path and you will find rest for your souls. Ask for the old godly way and walk in it. My parents, they walked the old godly way when it came to their finances. They never had a credit card. They simply saved for something, and when they had enough money, then they went and purchased it. And guess what? They never once got a letter from a collection agency. When it came to Christmas, they actually socked away money every pay period throughout the entire year, so that come Christmas time, they would have saved up in advance the money that they wanted to allocate for gift giving and for celebratory meals. Compared to December 2022, 2 months ago, Australians racked up $24 billion on credit cards just in December. $24 billion. Now, that means that Australians spent more than $24 billion. This is just the $24 billion on credit cards. And as of February, which we're currently in, 5 million Aussies are still carrying that December credit card debt. They haven't been able to pay it off yet. My parents never once experienced that. Another thing that my parents had a very clear handle on was the difference between a need and a want. Which isn't to say they never bought wants, it's just that they understood which was which and they prioritized them accordingly. And because something is a want for them, they were able to defer it if they didn't have the money. They said, oh, I'm going to get it, but I'm not going to get it now because I don't have the money for it now. I'm going to save for it, and when I have the money, then I'm going to purchase it. Great. And they were actually, and I grew up in a family that was pretty much on the lower income end of the scale. And so some of these decisions that my parents made perhaps were forced on them, but I kind of think that they would have chosen this anyway because it was better. And they had peace when it came to their finances. And I wonder if that's your story. You know, God promised that if we look for the old godly ways and walk in it, that we'll find rest for our souls. I wonder if that picture describes your financial world right now. This is kind of how people's financial worlds look. Let me break it down into 3 categories. The least ideal category is what I'll call the behind category. And people in this category, they find that debt is increasing, that they're making late payments because they can't keep up with the payments, that they're one payday away from disaster. If that breaks, we're in big trouble. And it's stressful. And a lot of people are here. I get that. And one additional downside is that a lot of people have concluded that they're banished to this place, that they're always going to be there. But here's what I want to assure you. God has a lot to say about finances. When we talk about look for the old godly way and walk in it, when it comes to finances, there's a lot of instruction in the old godly ways. And we're going to learn that. And I want to encourage you, if you learn the old godly ways when it comes to finances and you walk in them, you will put yourself in the position to potentially move from the behind category forward into the next category, which I call caught up. And in this case, your debt is decreasing. Some of you are in this category already. You're making timely payments on the things that you need to pay. You've stashed away a 3-month emergency fund. So if that thing breaks, it's not going to be a problem because you've got monies set aside ahead of time. And for you, things are stable. So of course, this is a better place than behind, but even with this caught up stage, there's people who might conclude that this is as good as it's going to get. And yet I want to put it to you that there's a next stage to get into, and that is ahead. And people who are in the ahead category have no debt. Yes, people This, you heard it right. Some people have no debt. They're actually ahead on payments. They're ahead on their mortgage. They've actually paid their insurances in full, in advance, because you get a discount rather than having to pay them monthly. They're building wealth. They're not spending everything they earn. They're actually putting money aside for savings and investments, and they're excited about their finances. So right as we kick off this new series, I want to encourage you, if you're in the behind or the caught up category and you're hearing about this ahead category and it sounds a little bit of a fantasy, instead of asking, why me? Why am I in the behind? Why am I only in the caught up? Can I give you a vision for asking the question, why not me? Why not allow God and give myself the opportunity to learn and grow and get better at this, to move towards and ultimately arrive in the ahead category? Now, just for the record, I don't know what you're thinking, but it's possible that some of you are thinking that the ticket to ride from the behind to the caught up, or the caught up to the ahead for you, is if only I could earn more money. And that might be helpful, and I'm all for it. If you have opportunities to earn more money, fantastic. But that's not going to be enough in isolation. For example, NBA players, National Basketball Association players in the United States, are the highest paid professional athletes of any sport in the world. The current average annual salary is US 7.9 million. Let's just call it 8. That's the average. LeBron earns more, some of the rookies earn less, but the average is $8 million US per annum. Maybe that sounds like a lot of money to you. Sounds like a lot of money to me. However, 60% of NBA players are broke within 5 years of retirement. Now, the NFL, the National Football League, American football, average salary is a bit lower. It's $3 million. Still sounds okay to me. Well, but guess what? 78% of NFL players are broke within 2 years of retirement. And it's like, well, how does that work? You go from earning $8 million a year or $3 million a year and you retire, and within 5 years or 2 years, you're broke. It's because they were spending everything they earned. And I know people who are earning $50,000 a year and they're spending everything they earn, and people earning $3 million a year and spending everything they earn. And guess what? At the end of the year, they both have the same amount of money in their bank accounts. 0. So earning can help, earning more can help, but only if it's combined with improving your understanding and commitment to managing what you earn. Now, one of our go-to people in the area of finances is Dave Ramsey. And in 2022, he released this book, his latest book, Baby Steps Millionaires, which the subtitle, if you can't read it, is How Ordinary People Built Extraordinary Wealth and How You Can Too. Ordinary people. And much of this book comes out of a research study that Dave's organization commissioned with a third-party research company. And it was the largest ever research study undertaken in the US of millionaires. Trying to find out how they came to be millionaires, what sort of professions these people were in. And here's a couple of the most, I think, a couple of the most important findings for us ordinary people to learn from. First of all, 93% of the millionaires basically came from either nothing or very little. They didn't inherit a great pool of money. They didn't win the lottery. They actually worked jobs. And over time, they moved into the place where they can now describe themselves as millionaires. And here's the top 5 jobs. Number 1, engineers. Number 2, accountant. Number 3, teacher. Yeah, teacher. Not necessarily the highest paid, but the third highest category of ordinary people who became millionaires, followed by management. And 93% of the people in management weren't CEOs, they were low to middle managers. And then finally, lawyers. And now there's a lot of professions that didn't even make that top 5 list. And then another thing that I found important is that the average time frame to achieving this millionaire status was 17 to 20 years. These people demonstrated and committed themselves to and learned and walked in old godly ways over a period of time, which came as no surprise to Solomon, because he wrote it this way: wealth from get-rich-quick schemes quickly disappears, but wealth from hard work grows over time. See, first of all, these ordinary people that became millionaires, they actually spent less than they earned. I'm going to talk about that next week. And then they automated setting money aside as savings. And I'm going to talk about that the following week. But the reality is, it doesn't actually matter how much you earn if you don't know how to manage it and you're not committed to consistently managing it. Because here's the reality. You and I have, yours and my personal economy, which we typically have a lot of control over, will almost always have more impact on which category you are financially, behind, caught up, or ahead, than what's going on in the global economy, which we have very little and often no control over. And so this series, in case you missed it, is called Recession Proof Your Life. And starting today and continuing over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to teach some very old, some very unglamorous, potentially boring, godly principles and practices that, if you apply them, will see you better managing your finances. Because the reality is that God has a lot to say about this, and He's been saying it for thousands of years. And one of the mistakes that we can make is we can look back at something that God spoke through Jeremiah and something that God inspired Solomon to write thousands of years ago and think it's irrelevant today. I mean, those people didn't have the big 4 banks and a massive mortgage. They weren't dealing with Bitcoin back then. You know, Amazon Prime wasn't delivering to the tent or the hut or the shack back then. But the reality is, these principles, these old godly ways, are timeless. And over thousands of years, countless people have actually learnt them and walked in them and experienced more freedom, more peace, and less roller coaster thrills when it comes to their finances. Louisa and I, we have been field testing these principles for coming up to 30 years. And when we lean into them, and as we lean into them, we have experienced more freedom, more peace, and less roller coaster thrills. And I'm encouraged that more and more of you over the years have also learned and applied these principles. And I consistently hear stories from you that you've been experiencing more freedom, more peace, and less roller coaster thrills as a result. But if this is new to you, then welcome. This is fantastic. Buckle up. not on the roller coaster, but on this journey over these next few weeks, because we're going to teach key principles, old godly ways when it comes to financial management, that if you learn them and walk in them, you too can experience more freedom, more peace, and less roller coaster thrills when it comes to your finances. And so here's the starting point. Principle number 1, put God first. I told you, these are going to be seemingly old, unglamorous, boring principles. Put God first. I mean, as a Jesus follower, this should be like, well, duh, we're meant to do that in all areas of life. Yeah, we are, absolutely, including our finances. And for this to make sense, put God first. I mean, shouldn't I put myself first? Because after all, we're talking about my finances. Well, not necessarily. Because we need to really actually zoom out and understand who really actually at the end of the day owns it. Any of you who are parents, have you gone through the I'm not sharing my food phase with your kiddos? Remember our nephew, when he was younger, he loved sharing his food with the family members around him. Only problem is that it wasn't the next piece of food from the plate. When he was halfway through chewing it, he was thinking, if I'm enjoying it, someone else should be able to enjoy it as much as me. So he would pull it out of his mouth and hand it to you, and you'd say, thanks, and you'd pretend to put it in your mouth. And anyway. But if you've been through the I'm not sharing my food phase with Junior, it might have looked something like this. You might have gone out for a meal or headed to a local fast food joint and maybe ordered some chips or fries for Junior, and you're sitting there at the table and you say, hey, Junior, can I have a fry? And Junior screams, no, these are my fries. And you think to yourself, listen, kid, not only do you live rent-free in my house, I bought those fries. I paid for those fries. In fact, technically, they are my fries. And I'm merely allowing you to enjoy them. So when I ask for one bag, you need to first understand they're all mine. I could take I could go buy more if I wanted to. This isn't about the fries. I'm actually testing, where's your heart? Do you recognize that I own everything, and I just want you to acknowledge that and put me first? Which I get it. It's an analogy. Fries, a couple of bucks. The mistake that we can make is with our finances is we can say, well, it's mine, that's mine. I earned it. I worked for it. It's in my bank account. And God would say, yeah, but I gave you the opportunity to work for it. I gave you the opportunity to get that job. I give you the health to be able to show up to work and do the job that allows you to earn money. I open up doors for you to advance. I have, and I can do more of that in the future. And so we see this principle again and again and again right through history. God teaching us, instructing us, reminding us, inviting us to put Him first in our finances. For example, He inspired Solomon to write this: honor the Lord with your wealth and with the best part of everything you produce. Then He, in response, God, will fill your barns with grain and your vats will overflow with good wine. We want the second bit, but it's actually triggered by the first bit, by honoring God with our wealth and the best parts of everything we produce. So again, here's the principle: put God first. And as best as we can break it down, the best, wisest biblical approach is, and we say this year after year after year, is give, save, live. I'm going to talk about the second and the third of those three next week and the week after. But a good and a well-tested strategy is give your first 10% to God through the local church. Save the next 10%, in other words, pay yourself, and then learn to live off the 80%. And my hope for you as we journey through this teaching series, Recession Proof Your Life, is that if this is you, that you will break the cycle of poverty in your life, which, by the way, is often a mindset, not a bank balance. That you will break the cycle of generational poverty that you may have experienced or be experiencing. That you'll break free from the cultural disease of overconsumption. That you'll experience freedom and joy and peace, and that you'll grow both in your willingness and your ability to be increasingly generous. So, as I said, next week I'm going to talk about paying debt down, and the following week I'm going to talk about building up savings. But week 1, today, we started with the first and most important principle: put God first. So look, I'd love to see you back here next week. I can't wait to teach on that. And invite someone either to join you for a watch party or send them the link and get them to join in online from wherever they are in the world, because this is stuff that a lot of people need to hear, and it's kind of the only place you're going to hear it. A little bonus content. Scan this QR code. It'll take you to the Bible app, and every week through this series, on a Monday, we're going to drop a new featured plan. You can make Elevate Church your church in the Bible app, and we're going to drop a new featured plan, and it's going to be built around the topic that we've taught in the week in the series. So, next week, after we've gone live with this, we will have a new Bible plan in the My Church section of the Bible app around the principle of putting God first. So come with us, take a deep dive this week, and come with us on this journey. And let's move forward to where God wants us to be, walking the path of old godly ways.